Happy. What's going on? So we're gonna talk about change. If you haven't watched my channel, you know that I sing in the beginning. I like music, and I think our brains are musical. I think the ways in which we understand rhythms and seasons and moments and memory encodes, right? Memory creates codes, memory codifies. We're going to explain all of that, right? Because you probably jumped on and was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? So we're going to talk about one of Neville's most powerful ideas, and I cannot hyper-focus on that word and it being a powerful idea, okay? I think I shared this before, and I apologize if you've heard it before, but basically when he was 7 years old, he was like a lady basically had like a prophecy over him and said that, you know, when you're growing up, or sorry, he was like 7 or something like that. Like when you grow up, or powerful legacy. And so then he starts, right, his lecture about the pruning shears of revision with this moment, this really pivotal moment for himself. Pivotal enough that he remembered it. He essentially starts talking about what revision is and how he thinks that revision, out of everything he's come to teach, he feels very inspired that it is revision. It is revision that he is here to teach us about, okay? So I see loads of people talking about revision. I see people talking about it in very surface level understandings. And I think it's it can be good to understand it at a surface level. So I'm not saying anything that they're doing or saying is wrong, but I think that we need to go deeper because again, again, to fully grasp the power of what Neville is talking about and what we can do with revision is literally like we have like a magic flipping wand. And it's not just a wand that reverses any past effects. It's full on changing you in the now, okay? But to really full grasp, because otherwise you just can hear revision and you're like, oh, I need to look at something positively, right? Hello, welcome. And so to fully grasp what he's really talking about and how to use it. And yes, of course, as you know, at the end of these things, I like to give you a technique. And this is, yes, again, from the work of, from the field of neuro-linguistic programming. So make sure you stay to the end for this. And so I'm going to actually combine two that we've kind of been talking about. There are way more, but I'm just keeping it really simple because I don't want to overwhelm you. So, okay. What we're going to do is I want you to think of a memory, okay? Now, that memory is a story. Now, I'm not saying that if you ever experienced crappy stuff in your life, that all that is just a story in the sense of, oh, that's something that you read at bedtime to a 4-year-old person, right? No. Stories as in that's the way our brain speaks. If your brain had a language, it would be story, right? And so that's literally how it works. I mean, there's actually called like narrative neuroscience, and it actually studies how stories, right, influence and impact the human brain. Okay, so it's super interesting because if you get this, you will not only understand revision, you'll understand why it works and how you can use it on others and for yourself in a very powerful healing way. Okay, because remember, revision isn't just about changing you. It's about changing events. It's about changing moments. I mean, I read a story recently where the woman revised, I think it was a wreck or something like that, but she had revised it so powerfully, it was actually everybody involved didn't even remember being part of this wreck, right? And so again, I want to say this because I even read this today where somebody defined his as in Neville's work on revision as, oh, this is just you changing your perspective on a past event. No, it's not. What's 100% it's not, right? That is a surface level understanding of revision. That is the life coachy, that is the positive psychology understanding of revision. Neville's not arguing for that. He is arguing for the fact that we can change the substance of history and then anybody who is involved. Now, I know people love to hear personal stories. So we're going to still kind of deep dive into psychology and into all these new terms, right? It's called elaborative encoding, by the way. It's a pretty cool thing. I'm going to explain to you what your brain does and is capable of. But let me share with you a personal story. So I had a a fight with, I mean, not a fight, but like a disagreement, right, with somebody close to me. And it was actually at an event where I had actually requested the event for us to go together, and I had won 2 tickets and so on. It was really cool. So I was really excited. Got to see one of my favorite bands, all this kind of stuff. Really, really super cool. So I was really, really having a good time with this person, hanging out, and then we get into a disagreement. Okay, and that like pretty much tries to kind of like filter the whole night. Now I chose not to let it filter, but what I did is as soon as we got home that night, I literally sat in the feelings of the wish fulfilled, which is that didn't happen. That was a great moment. It was not only did I manifest the tickets, I manifested this moment with this person, right? And I manifested this great memory and all this kind of stuff. And I went to bed. This is less than 12 hours, folks. I mean, like, this is crazy. So less than 12 hours, right? I talked to this person and I was like, oh, okay. So, hey, you know, I was trying to come at it from, oh, you know what? We had a great time. But then I felt the need to bring up, which I shouldn't have, but I felt the need to bring up, oh, we had a disagreement. Now, this is where it gets really weird, like Twilight Zone weird, okay? Because I brought it up and this person was adamant that it didn't happen. Right? This person was extremely adamant, hey, we didn't have this disagreement. And it actually happened another time with somebody else, right? And so, again, you can use revision to, again, yes, it is about changing you, but it's also about changing anybody else involved. So if you had a traumatic childhood, if you had a traumatic moment, if you have a set of traumatic limiting beliefs, whatever it is, right, you can change it. And when I say change, I'm not using this in some like, oh, just change your perspective on it. So don't hear that, because this is what most people understand revision to mean, and I agree with that. And so the way in which Neville talks about it is actually very similar to this idea that we can alter past. Right? But yes, when you alter the past, it does alter you, and it changes your patterns, changes your emotions, it changes your belief system, changes what you accept as true, accept as possible, right? And not only accept as possible within yourself, but accept what is possible within others, or within the event, within the moment, right? So again, revision isn't just about changing you. That's the most important thing, yes. But when you change it, it changes people. Why? Because it changes you. And what are people? They're reflections of you. What is an event? It's a reflection of you, right? So everything about revision is changing you, okay? But yes, those things do change, okay? And this is not woo. I'm not a woo person, right? I'm looking at this very scientifically. So why don't we jump into that? So again, anybody ever hear of neuroplasticity or elaborate encoding or consolidation? These are all from the field of neuroscience, okay? So all of these are explaining your brain's ability to make memories, okay? And to consolidate them. So consolidation is what happens when you take a piece of short-term information, right? Like somebody's number that they just told you, and then you turn it into long-term information. So again, if you like find a way, like for example, you can turn somebody's phone number to a song, that's a quick way to memorize it. So that's actually what's happening in neuroscience when we refer to the process as consolidation, okay? This is very important to recognize and remember, because this is what's happening to your brain when you're revising. You're taking a memory, the scene that you're creating, the imaginary scene, and you're taking it and you're basically creating the scene, which is right now short-term memory. Like I just told you a number, right? And then you remembered that phone number, okay? But then when you remember it, it becomes long-term information. Okay, so remembering is long-term information. Remember how Neville's technique is, I remember when, right? Why would he say that? Because you're using nostalgia and the emotion of nostalgia to embed a memory. So that's literally taking a piece of information, right, that you just learned right now, and it now becomes part of your long-term memory, which, by the way, if you don't know, what is human identity? Human identity is, simply put, a bundle of memories that we keep repeating as true, okay? And so when you are telling the story of whatever it is that you're experiencing, you're not only keeping it embedded as long-term memory, you're still forming an identity out of it. And so you're not only forming an identity out of it, you're forming a set of beliefs out of it. Then you're forming a set of judgments, and then you judge others and the world and what you're capable of in and through those beliefs. Okay, are you with me? Are you with me? So again, this is what's happening to you as you're forming memories. Remember, as we've said before, these are not imaginary scenes. You have to really replace the word imaginary scene with memory, because you're going to be steering that back every time you have doubts, okay? Back to the new memory, not to the old one, okay? And I know I've repeated myself from yesterday, but keep in mind though, right, is that what you're doing is you are making a new person. So again, consolidation is just a neuroscientific process of saying, here's a piece of information from short-term memory, right? That's short-term memory is when somebody tells you something and you forget it. Long-term memory is when you are told something and you remember it, right? And so what you're doing with Neville revision is you're taking a memory, which is the scene, right? And you're shifting it from short-term memory to long-term memory. And he says to use techniques like I remember when. Why? Because you're using emotion to embed it in. And that's called elaborate encoding. You can check up all these terms, right? And so again, it's the brain's ability to encode a memory. Remember, and who are you? You're a bundle of memories that you keep repeating. Hence why Neville's technique of states akin to sleep, or this imaginary scene that you're creating, is the most powerful one out there. Because not only are you creating new memories, you're replacing the old ones, which actually make a new version of you, a new version of your friends, a new version of a car, whatever it is that you are trying to manifest, you are revising and changing and altering, which alters the patterns of belief, which alters the patterns of possibility, which alters the patterns of your future, right? So again, revision is very neuroscientific, okay? And it also shows another concept, and I'm not going to focus on this one too much, but it basically really shows the brain's ability to be neuroplastic. So it's called neuroplasticity, right? I have a really good friend of mine. She's actually a neurosurgeon, philosophical neurosurgeon, and she's written many books on this idea of neuroplasticity. Her name's Catherine Malibu, and you should definitely check her stuff out. It is hardcore though, because it's embedded in her own philosophical language, but it shows the brain's ability to change, and it shows the brain's ability to change through growth, right? Are you with me? So remember, okay, this is going to be hard to hear, and I'm not trying to make it hard to hear, okay? But for you to truly use revision means you have to be open to change, okay? And if you're not, then you won't grow. And that means your neuroplasticity, which means your brain's ability to learn new things, won't be used. It's like knowing you have a muscle and never using it, right? And the muscle is always, so part of my Kabbalah training is one of the teachers. She's actually absolutely amazing. And she's like, I've learned to become a change junkie, right? And that's kind of the mentality that you need. To revise is to change. To change is to grow. To grow is to move into the future, right? And so this what you ultimately want to realize, that revision is doing all of these things. This is why it's extremely powerful. This is why Neville bigs it up as his most important technique, and so on and so forth. And don't worry, in about 5 or 10 minutes, unless people start jumping on and commenting, I'm probably gonna give you the technique early on today. But like basically, remember that your memories are not permanent, right? But here's the other thing that revision teaches you. Your past isn't permanent, right? And your past identity that you have kept rehearsing, like for example, really like dumb example is like, let's say that, you get rejected in 8th grade, right? And, which a lot of people have, okay? So, and then the brain, what the brain does and what it wants to do is it wants to start interpreting everything through the filter of being the rejected. Not just being rejected at 8th grade. Now it's turned you into a person who thinks you are worthy of rejection, right? So then you end up repeating what it means to be a person who's worthy of rejection. Are you with me? Right? So what you then do is you create patterns of behaviors, not just patterns of thinking, because every behavior that you have comes from a pattern of thinking. And every pattern of thinking comes from a repeated pattern of thought. And then every repeated pattern of thought originates in a repeated pattern of emotion, right? Are you getting it? So revision is breaking that pattern. Revision is full on severing you from any of that. That's why it's powerful. And I know I keep saying it's powerful because I think people hear the word revision and they don't really take on what it is because they think it's just positive thinking. Like it's just looking at a past event and saying, oh, look at the lesson that I learned. And we're gonna talk about that next, right? Because I had a really good question about from my son, and he said, well, yeah, but what if I'm gonna go through the event and I want to learn the lesson, right? That's a good question, but we're gonna answer that in a minute. So again, let's go back to the 8th grade thing, and then we're gonna answer my son's question, which I thought was really good. So if you had the 8th grade rejection story going on and you live it and you breathe it, guess what your brain's gonna do? So this isn't just revision, this is your brain, okay? What it's gonna do is, even if it's 10 years on, 20 years on, 30 years on, 70 years, it doesn't matter. If your brain thinks that you just walked into a room that looks, feels, smells, like you interact with, like it's an 8th grade place, like let's say it's a job interview, or let's say it's a job presentation. Let's say that you feel the same nervous feelings and emotions that you did when you felt when you were rejected. Guess what your brain's gonna do? It's gonna tell you to act the same way you did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And that's why revision alters the past and then alters you. But not, remember, if you just jumped on, revision is not positive thinking. It is not, I'm looking at this from a positive perspective and I'm trying to mine it for little cool little wisdom nuggets. And I know you're gonna hear that a lot in Neville circles, and that's a very not good definition of it, okay? It's not that it's not helpful, that's actually just part of Neville's idea of selective hearing, right? You're using selective hearing on your past, right? Which is fine, you could do that. But when you actually believe that revision changes people as well as you and the events and the moments that you've had, then you actually begin to think, okay, now big things are happening. Big magic is actually happening, okay? Because has always been my experience with revision. There's never not one time where it hasn't just changed me, it's changed people and objects in history, okay? So again, I want you to keep that in the back of your mind. Now, let's go back to the 8th grade and then answer my son's question. So again, 8th grade, you have a memory that keeps you thinking you are rejection worthy, okay? So then you have to revise it. So how do you revise it? Well, then if you trace it back to this 8th grade dance, you then revise it by going back into that moment, not as your current self, not as your current person, right? You sit in it for 10, 20 minutes, feeling the power of being God, right? And you do that, and then what you do is you create the scene as if you are the person who is in 8th grade. You feel the feelings of being in 8th grade. You look around and see the balloons up and all the banners, and you see the people and all this kind of stuff, right? And then you feel the walk and you feel the awkwardness of being 8th grade, whatever it is. And then you interact with people, and you interact with either maybe you revise it to just hang out with your friends. Maybe you revise that 8th grade dance where you to just be all by yourself but having fun. Or maybe you did revise it where the girl or guy said yes to you. Whatever it is, you have to fully understand that when you're revising it, you're never revising it from who you are right now in this moment. You're going in as that person. If you're going in and revising a memory when you're 7, you're not going in as a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, 42-year-old. You're going in as that age, okay? And so, like, for example, Neville actually revised something which was really powerful, if you've never heard this. Okay, and then I'm gonna answer my son's question, and I'm gonna give you those 2 tips combined. These powers combined, Captain Planet. All right, so what I want to do, though, is I want to, again, talk about Neville's experience, very, very short story, and then, again, my son, and then the 2 techniques. Okay, so Neville's story. He actually revised, when he was 38, a back pain that showed up. Okay, again, if you've heard this, this is reinforcement. If you haven't, then this is a great story. So he ends up having a back pain, and he traces it back to a memory, okay? And so the memory was that he had actually jumped off of a swing and had fallen and hurt himself. Nobody was there outside or anything, right? Him alone, everything. So he traced it back. This is a really cool, really cool technique. So he traced it back, felt the age, right, of being that again. I think it was 8 again or something along those lines. Anyhow, he was a certain age. He revised to that age, felt it. This time, though, he actually landed on his feet, right? So he didn't actually land wrong. He landed on his feet, had his hands up in the air, and then his mom was there with him, cheering them on, saying, oh my gosh, great job, this is so amazing, right? So revision isn't just changing to the event. You can add anything you want. You can make yourself famous at whatever event where you felt like people didn't like you, whatever it was. And he says, right, revise or even imagine the best of the best. Right. So again, and the other thing is people hear revision, right? And then they hear, oh, I'm just going to revise bad stuff. That's partly what you want to do, but even revise good stuff. And you want to revise every single day, right? Maybe tomorrow, or I think tomorrow's my last day. If you guys want more, let me know. Leave a comment more. But I will go through like what a day could look like for you. So then we'll actually break that down and give you an example of things you can be doing on a regular basis, right? So again, he revised that powerful memory to then include what he wanted, which was, hey, I felt good. My mom who supports me is there, and that made me feel important. And then 3 days later, boom, he revised the pain away and never showed up again, right? So again, revision works. Revision works. It's not just positive, right? And the question that my son asked, because I think this is an important question, is, what if I want to learn the lessons? What if you wanted to like mine it, and dig deep into your own story or a history? Okay, which I think is an important question, but here's the key. If you revise an event, you would have already learned what you needed to learn. Okay, you don't need to sit there and say, I that's going to make me feel more spiritual. Guess what you can do? If you want that, why don't you just make yourself feel more spiritual as you revise it? Right? So then you combine both of those feelings together as you're revising the historical event and then assume that you've already learned what you need to learn. Right? So you don't need to sit there and say, well, I just need to analyze this event and I want to learn the 7 different lessons. No, assume that you have all of those lessons already. Are you with me? So then you don't have to go through an event to actually say, well, that'll give me more wisdom. No, if you revise the event as it was meant to go, you're going to learn whatever you need to learn because it's already revised you as the person who already has whatever it was necessary to have that event go the way that you wanted it. Are you with me? So, all right. So since you guys are kind of quiet today, I mean, people are on, but since you guys are quiet, I'm going to give you these 2 NLP techniques combined. And this is actually, now, if you don't know how to revise, I kind of gave you the idea, right? You take an event, okay, and you use those 3 knobs techniques, which is the knobs on the lower right of your screen. You're never doing this from a third person. You're not watching yourself, right? You're actually creating a scene from the first person, giving yourself one single action, no more than that, repeating it, right? Until you feel real, until it feels like it's yours. But what you do with those 3 knobs is 1 for sound, 1 for color, 1 for emotion, okay? You want to turn up. And when you feel like it's too much, you keep turning it up. And when you feel like it's too much, you turn it up again. Turn it up again, right? Hey, Dominic, how you doing? How you doing? Yes, very, very cool. Thank you for jumping on. Yeah, so basically what you want to do is you want to use that technique, but then this time you're going to combine it with another one. Okay, and if you've been watching these live events, right, is that you want to revise, and when you're revising, you want to do the swish pattern. Okay, so the swish pattern is, okay, here's the event I didn't want to have, and you're going to feel it immediately and quickly and briskly, which means you don't want to sit in that, right? Whereas the first one, I think on day 3, when I was teaching you guys this, is that you want to feel it. Well, unless it's traumatic, and the reason why you want to feel traumatic moments, and I'm not trying to re-traumatize you, is because you want to let go of it. Okay, and you may need to do that a few days in a row. If it's too much, don't do it, right? Do self-care, okay? And then there's a technique that I actually teach my coaching clients called fractionation. I'm not going to teach you here. If you want to, you can join the coaching program. I can teach you there. Also, there's another one that has to do with revision called set point memories, where you create new memories out of nowhere, and it actually makes a huge knock-on positive effect in your life now. But again, that's kind of for the advanced techniques and groups that I'm teaching and training people in. So again, get in touch for packages. But what we're doing is I want you to use the swish pattern, okay? And that is, you're gonna make the scene, right, that you currently want to revise, big and colorful, and you want to, right, use the knobs, make it colorful, make all the sounds real, feel the anxiety, blah, 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 but only do it for like 10 seconds. And then what I want you to do is I want you to do this very, very quickly. I want you to Mickey Mouse their voices, right? Hi, make it funny, right? And then I want you to start making it small, 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 but do this very quickly, right? Okay? And do it very, very, very small, 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 small. And as you make it smaller, I don't mean just the people involved. Make it black and white. That's what the knobs are. Turn everything down, right? The sound down, the color down, the judgment down, the emotion down, right? And then what I want you to do is I want you to either push it away or slowly mentally see it going away, smaller, 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 into oblivion, into nothingness, okay? And once you feel like, okay, and then by the way, somebody asked me this the other day, and it's a very good question. What if I don't know what relief feels like? Because a lot of this is about relief, right? If you're manifesting something and then you feel relief about it, meaning you don't need to manifest anymore. You don't need to work on efforting your imaginary scenes anymore or your visualizations, right? And so you can train yourself to feel relief. People don't like to hear that because they're like, no, it should be a natural after effect. Yeah, but if you've never felt relief, how are you going to know what relief is unless you practice it? So yes, I'm a big encourager in practicing relief, okay? And there's loads of psychology behind this. So yes, I do differ than loads of other people who are trying to say, well, no, relief should just be a natural after effect. That should be your Sabbath. In my head and in the way I understand human minds, right, it's okay to create your Sabbath, okay? And why? Because you're God, so why not? Right? Hi, Nika, how are you doing? And so again, you want to be actively involved in that scene from first person. Welcome, welcome, Nika. And you want to be actively involved in revising it and changing it. And remember, if you haven't watched any of this back, make sure you watch it back, right? Is that it's changing you, but it's also changing history. It's changing people involved. It's changing the substance of objects in your experience. It is changing the substance. It is not just changing an event and you looking positively at it. That's not helpful. What's helpful is when you change things, which change you, okay? So, and yes, I have loads of other examples of people actually not just saying, oh, I had some bad event and I looked at it positively. Nope, that's not what revision is. That's not revision, okay? That's just positive thinking, right? And positive interpretation. So again, it changes you. So yes, you can change anything in your past. Your brain is flexible. Memories are flexible. Did you know that, for example, anytime that you access a memory, right? Anytime, right? You never access it yet again, no matter how long you access it for, more than once than what it was originally experienced as. That means your brain is constantly changing your memories. And what do we say that people are a bundle of just repeated memories, right? Repeated actions, okay? So again, keep that in the back of your mind, right? So you can change. You have to want to change and revision, and you can revise it in the moment. So how do you revise in the moment? So revising in the moment is when you take something like, let's say somebody said something to you, or not even that. Let's say you heard something on TV and it set you off, right? And it triggered you, or you read something on Reddit, or you read something on your Apple News app, or whatever it is, and you're like, whoa, and it set you off. You stop it. You immediately stop it. You don't sit there and tell the story and say, oh my gosh, can you believe about P. Diddy or whatever it is? You immediately stop whatever triggered you, okay? And then you basically revise it, which means you change it, right? And you look at it from a different perspective and you say, okay, nope, happens in my favor, right? Let's say you feel like the world's against you or whatever it is, right? And then all the news is kind of coming to show you that or whatever it is. Then you stop it. You do not try to keep the story going. You don't try to tell somebody, a friend, because you're in mid-thought. Stop the mid-thought, boom. You have to get militant about this stuff, right? And so what you do is you stop telling that story. You stop repeating that story, okay? And you then immediately revise the feeling. So then if you felt rejected, feel accepted. If you feel fearful, then feel safe. If you felt lack, then feel satisfaction, right? And you feel it, and then just go about your day. Right? Because that revises history. That revises you. That revises potential. Okay? Are you with me? So again, I teach people how to do this. Right? Oh, thank you, Nika. So again, I do teach people how to do this in my coaching programs. We just launched a whole bunch of new coaching programs. I do weekly Bible studies, and no, they're not Christian Bible studies. They're actually looking at it only from the mystical. I actually have a Reddit article that just dropped today on how to read the Bible from the mystical, and every single verse in Scripture is a technique for how to manifest and how to be aware of who you are as God, right? And so I want to encourage you to read those. 2 dropped today, so check out the other one as well about regret and what regret is. I will be doing one more tomorrow, so make sure that you're here anywhere from 12 to 2 p.m. PST. That's like on the West Coast here in America. So, and again, check out my coaching programs. I have my emails in my bio. I have a free Discord group, but I also have a closed mastermind group, which is pretty awesome, where we do stuff in groups and we have activities. You get free discounts to stuff, all this kind of stuff. So again, please listen back, leave your thoughts. If you have any questions, just leave them down there. But thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being amazing. Again, couldn't do any of this without all of you. Are so important. So much love to you. Please manifest well, and I will see you sometime tomorrow in between 12 and 2. Well, we'll see if it's the last one. All right. So thank you again. Much love. Enjoy the weekend, and happy Easter to you all.